blowing the playoffs.
I don't think it's possible to get a better soundbite than that one, courtesy of Major League 2, to start a new Leafs podcast. But here we are. Can you tell we're Leaf fans yet? I'm Joe Choffs. I'm here with Coach Frankie DG, and this is a new podcast, the Puckin Leafs Podcast. If you follow us in the past, it's probably because you listened to us on Not Another Puckin Sports Pod, which we're still going to be doing. But if you've been listening to that, you know we love to talk about the Leafs. They're our favorite team. And last year we had our 10-minute misconduct segment dedicated to the Leafs weekly. Problem was we could never stick to the 10 minutes. So we discussed it over the off season and thought, hey, why don't we make another podcast, Leaf specific? So if you're following us for that, you just come to this podcast right here. This is the one you want to listen to. We'll still touch upon them on Not Another Puckin Sports Pod, but that will touch more upon NHL as a whole and, of course, NFL, NBA, MLB, all that other fun stuff. So in saying that, welcome. This is a podcast for the fans, by the fans, like Frankie likes to say. Frankie, how you doing? And welcome to our first episode, buddy.
I'm Jack, man. This is hey, listen, the only reason why we did this is because, we look at our YouTube content, we look at our Instagram, our reels, all of our stuff. We get the most traffic, obviously, when we're talking Leafs. And when they're doing great, it's awesome. When they're doing bad, it's even better because we get the comments and we get challenged, which we love to. And this is why we want to make it for the fans, by the fans. We try to stay as unbiased as possible. It's hard sometimes, but I think we do a pretty good job of it. I like to think. But we want to be able to take that stuff, challenge us, take those comments, bring them on here because we want it to be your pod. There's a ton of Leaf pods out there, but we want to make this more feel like you're part of it. And that's kind of really where we want to go. So I'm Jack because this is my wheelhouse, man. So let's get to it.
We probably could have named this pod Not Another Puckin Leafs Pod because there's so many Leafs podcasts out there. And there's so many good ones too. They really are. I listen to a bunch myself. Yep. But, hopefully this is a little bit different. We'll even, if you're a big Leaf fan and you want to talk about it, we don't mind bringing you on and sure, sharing what your opinion is on the team here and there as well. So let's get down to it. On our first episode, preseason has started. They look good so far, but really, what can you draw from preseason? It's pretty much the regular players. They're just trying to get their legs under them and make sure they don't get hurt, which has not gone well, that aspect for the Leafs thus far. A lot of injuries to start the year. And then for the guys that are trying to make the team, they're trying to go all out and not get hurt also, but trying to make a good impression, especially the young guys, a la Nick Robertson. We'll touch upon him in a second. But I'm losing my train of thought right here.
Good start.
Good start right there. Wow.
Well, we're talking about camp, and usually for me, training camp is about the fringe guys. This year is more of a battle of, I've never seen, it's been a while since we've seen legit battles for the second line winger spot between Tavares and Nylander. The bottom six is a crapshoot now since Mikheyev's gone, Kasha's gone. I always like seeing what we have in the farm. I don't watch, I'll be honest with you, I don't watch a lot of Marlies, but I'm aware of the guys that are knocking on the door, the guys like Alex Steves, Nick Robertson. I love me some Pontus Holmberg. Pontus Holmberg is going to be my new Ilya Mikheyev, just to let you know that. I think this kid is really good. We came over from Sweden. But guys like that, I want to see how they play in this environment, but not just coming over and playing on a line together. I want to see these guys play with actual NHLers. I want to see how they integrate Robertson with Nylander and, say, Kerfoot, or Holmberg centering Nylander and Malgin the other night. I was at the game and I saw that. That's what I want to see, because I think the Leafs have done a better job in developing their higher draft picks than they have in the past. But I also want to see these guys get a crack versus, these other guys bringing in on PTOs and, the recyclable players. I want to see more homegrown talent on this team than the fringe NHLers that are playing 3 minutes a night for Minnesota. I don't want to see that. I'm sick
Like
of that.
Like your Michael Amadios and
Yes,
things like that,
yes,
right?
who ended up being like the third line center for
Jimmy
Vegas.
VC, that
Done with
ilk.
those. Done with those, man. Although I did like the Zach Aston Reese PTO because that guy, they're going to sign him. So, but
Yeah, I think they've been forced to go that route, right? They needed cheap contracts, guys that can fill the role because they didn't have the young talent that was ready yet with those entry level contracts
yeah,
that they would have loved to give those roster spots to. So they brought in veterans. I think they were forced to do that mainly because of that Auston Matthews draft. Other than Auston Matthews, went so poorly and
yeah,
they got so little out of it. I think next year, possibly even this year, you're going to start to see their prospect pool bear some fruit for the pro team,
I think so. Yep, I think so.
right? So I think they're close, and they won't have to rely on signing the veterans to $1 million because they'll have the entry level guys coming in. That's hopefully what happens, and I'm sure they want that. I think what we should do, Frankie, for the main theme of this episode is we want to know, and we ask the question, is this Maple Leafs team better than last year's team? A team that, despite losing in the first round again, yes, still put up the franchise record in points by 10 points. They bested their previous best points total. Had a great year, despite not getting the greatest of goaltending. And we're really a bounce here, a bounce there, some better officiating away from defeating the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round. Is this team better? That's what we want to know. What do you think, Frankie? Do you want to start by breaking down maybe the defense or looking at the forward group?
Well, I think
I know the goaltending is going to be a hot topic.
Well,
right?
I was going to say, let's start from the net out. I think that's kind of where everybody is kind of losing their shit over. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh man, I believe in Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. How can you? Unless your last name is Murray or Samsonov, how can you? This is a show me type of thing. But then I look at Campbell and Mrazek last year. Let's not forget, there were some major injuries that were going on there, okay? They started off so hot, and then Campbell gets an all-star game nod. And I never forget this. It was a text in our chat group. I said, hopefully Campbell doesn't get the Anderson bug. When Freddie Anderson went to the all-star game, right after that, he went right down the shitter. And sure enough, Campbell happened the same thing that happened to Campbell, but we knew it was an injury. But regardless, we were starting to think, oh my God, not Campbell. And they almost signed him to a 5-year, they were about oh my God,
that was the rumor, yeah.
He was up. They were calling him early Vezina numbers, right? So obviously we know the story there. Mrazek, it
didn't go well from him off the hop.
So you have to rely on Eric Kallgren coming in and giving you, somewhat okay goaltending. So as a team, their goaltending was at, I believe it was a 900 or a 902, below league average, but they still had the best record, their best points record in history. So I'm looking at these two guys now. Matt Murray, who's won 2 cups, seems like forever ago, but he's got a chip on his shoulder, something to prove, who actually had a good stretch for about 6 weeks for the Ottawa Senators, no less. Then he got hurt. And you have Ilya Samsonov, a former first-round draft pick, who had 23 wins last year. I think around 23 wins, but had a 3.00 goals against average, playing for a kind of weak defense core in Washington. So, again, a guy who said, no, I'm not going to take 2 years or more money elsewhere. I want a 1-year deal to prove it. So you got 2 guys with a chip on their shoulder who have to be better than 902. That's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm not saying they're going to be all-stars, but shit, if they can put up a 910, a 908, whatever it is, respectable numbers behind pretty much the same decor as last year, which for the most part was okay. If you remember, suppressing.
No, their decor was good last year.
Now with the
we need to stop
Giordano,
with this narrative that the Leafs D is not good, because for
decent.
2 decades it wasn't good. So people just hang on to that. And for the fans that don't actually watch the team from other fan bases, they stick to that narrative. Oh, not with that defense. No, the defense was good. And if you look at every advanced metric, even a non-advanced metric like goals against, Their defense was good. Top 10 in the league last year. So let's get rid of that narrative.
So I'm going to say, Joe, compared to last year and this year's goaltending, I'm going to call it equal because it's really hard to say better. Even though we really want to say worse, you can't go on last year. Okay. So I'm going to say it equals itself out. The defense. Thank God.
Can I just say one thing about the goaltending before we move on?
Yeah.
What worries me is, when people say it's just got to be better than it was last year, slightly better or at par as last year, they could still put up the wins in the regular season. They'll get similar results, but slightly better also will give them similar results in the playoffs.
Fair.
Let's not downplay the fact that goaltending is huge in hockey. Look at the Rangers last year. Shesterkin, did they even make the playoffs without Shesterkin? And they end up winning 2 rounds because of that guy. He's that good. Their goaltending doesn't need to be that good. We're not expecting Vezina type quality goaltending, but man, it would be nice to get some quality saves, especially at opportune times, like when your team is totally outplaying a team in overtime. It'd be nice to get a save when it comes back the other way. And I love this is amazing to me. Going into the season last year, what did we hear? What was the narrative? The Leafs have major question marks in net. Jack Campbell, he hasn't done it. He hasn't been the guy for an entire year. This is what we hear. Comes out of the gate flying, great start. Then they go into that little COVID break, and from that point on, he was awful. And this was before the All-Star break. He was not good. Was okay in the playoffs. Wasn't the reason they lost, but he was okay. Just okay, to quote Randy.
Just okay.
What's the narrative going on behind the Edmonton Oilers this year who signed Jack Campbell? Goaltending has been fixed. We got our guy. No problems anymore. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here. How was it fixed? The same guy that you had question marks about last year didn't do anything to soften those question marks, and now your goaltending is fixed. Okay. That's my little soapbox for the day. There's my little rant.
I didn't want to get on to the Jack Campbell thing, but
we love the guy, like Frankie. He's a sweetheart. We him.
All like Jack. But that is going to be a massive miss by the Edmonton Oilers. That's
honestly,
all I'm saying.
I hope it isn't because I don't like the Oilers, but I like Jack. I hope it goes well for him. Honestly, I wanted the Leafs at the beginning of last year to sign him because he was that good at the beginning of the year. But thankfully, they were patient because as the year went on, he just didn't have it anymore.
Not only that, Jack Campbell can't be relied on to play 65, whatever games. If you tell me Stuart Skinner is going to pick up the other 35, 40-ish games, whatever, I don't think so, man. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying you're going to rely on Jack too much. Jack doesn't have a good history with injuries, so that's all I'm saying. Listen, I hope it goes well, man. I really do, but it's just look into the crystal ball as we, But anyways, let's go to the defense here. Pretty much the same defense core. Thank God Sandin saw the light and signed. So obviously that's going to be key because he was at stretches last year their best defenseman.
Awesome. And I can't stand when I'm reading people on Twitter that are saying, oh, he doesn't want to sign, just trade this guy. No, you don't trade a 21-year-old defenseman that is that good. I think people forget how good he was last year because of the injury. He got injured, and then we never saw him after that. They didn't play him in the playoffs.
Here's what I like about what they've done this year. Okay, the Liljegren injury sucks for him because he was our probably most improved defenseman last year.
Absolutely.
Playing with Giordano. When he comes back, there's going to be competition for that 5, 6, 7 spot, which is great, right? That is to say, maybe they'll make a trade in time. But they picked up Jordy Ben and Victor Mete, which, again, if those guys are your 7 and 8, that's not a bad thing. They just can't be your 5 and 6.
That's right.
But 7 and 8 is okay. You now have a year of a healthy Giordano, who I thought it was excellent when he came over.
Excellent pickup last year.
And now looks even better for his value. I give now the edge on the defense is better than last year, right? So there's my. Now come the forwards. I predicted, and you've heard this. I'm scared for this forward group, and I'll tell you why. This is now a one-line team. Okay? If they don't find chemistry on that second line, playing Russian roulette of moving guys in left and right, playing with Tavares and Nylander, there are going to be major issues with this team. This team will turn into the Edmonton Oilers, being a one-line team, a one-line that dominates, who tries to outscore their problems. But they are one injury away from catastrophe. Okay? They are so top-heavy. That's what scares the heck out of me. And hey, listen, that's the situation that they're in. That I get it. But even losing Mikheyev, which was probably good for 20 goals the way he was going.
Yep.
Andre Kasha gave some good offense. This team has turned into, up front, a team of they will do well if this has to happen, if this happens, if this happens. I don't want to hear any more ifs. I can look at Tampa Bay and I know what I'm going to get from certain guys. I have no idea what I'm going to get from Calle Jarnkrok, who hasn't scored more than 16 goals, even though he probably looks better in a top 6 role. No idea what I'm going to get. He could score 20. He could score 6. I don't know. Obey Kubel, fringe NHLer. Zach Aston Reese, not known for his scoring. If you have to hope for Pierre Engvall to outscore what he did last year, that scares me. David Kemp, career year last year. Are you going to expect that from him this year? It's hard to say. Now you're banking on a 21-year-old Nick Robertson to come in and put up 10, 12, 15 goals. Are you really saying, oh, it's okay, all we got to do is wait till Matthew Nyes comes in March? Really? This is what scares me, Joe. I hope I'm wrong, but let's just look at what's there now. And we'll get into the lineup in a second, but to me, I don't see it. I think they're going to struggle to score this year because teams are going to figure them out. As good as that top line's going to be, if Auston doesn't score 60, if Mitch doesn't get 100, if Bunting doesn't have another career like he did last year, that's a lot of ifs, man. And that's just the way I see it. I think they're worse up front than they were last year.
I mean, they got good depth last year, good depth scoring, especially during the regular season. It was the playoffs where they needed a bit more. It would have been nice to get a big goal from someone other than the big four who contributed. I think Engvall and Mikheyev just were in on one of the goals. It was like an empty netter or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to be a little bit more positive than you. You're scaring me a little bit.
Go ahead.
I think going into the season last year, Tavares has said like he didn't get to train the way he wanted to last year, so he had a bit of a slow start. I was really looking forward to the start he'd have this year, but then of course he just got injured, so now that may slow him down. I think Nylander's prime for a good year. I think he'll provide a lot of scoring for them. I think they'll get enough scoring from their top two lines. They should be good enough on the power play that the third and fourth line should be hard to play against, especially I think that's what they're going to go for, and chip in with a goal here and there. I think they'll be fine. And then hopefully you get into a situation where at the deadline, maybe you can add another forward that can give you that little bit more depth scoring.
Yeah. And
I think that's the play that they're going to go for.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that fourth line last year, they love Spezza, but I don't know if they liked him in a fourth line role. They want their fourth line to be more like Tampa Bay's, where it's like just hard to play against.
Yeah.
So that's where fair. you get the Abe Kubel and you get the Zach Aston Reese. These are guys that they're not like fighters in any way, but they're fast and they can lay the body and they're hard to play against. And I think that's what they want the identity to be for their third and fourth lines.
I'll add this though. They will rely on that power play. It's probably going to be the same, and it's probably going to be effective at most points of the season to get you goals. The key is the penalty kill. They led the league in shorthanded goals last year. That guy's gone.
Yeah.
Right? So you're probably going to have a decent penalty kill, but a lot of that offense that came off that PK may not be there, depending on who plays there now. Yeah, Marner will be there. That's fine. Kerfoot, but Zach Aston Reese, Jarnkrok, these are not guys that will typically score on a penalty kill, right? So you might take a hit there. So again, I'm just trying to find, differences between, because they put up a lot of goals last year. Yep. They may have to adjust the way they play. You got to play to your lineup. As a coach, I can't expect a guy who doesn't not score to go score 20 goals. You got to play to your strengths. So if what you say of that third and fourth line be harder to play against, then maybe they'll win maybe 3-2 games. Right. So I guess time will tell. I'm not convinced yet. You be the optimist. I'll be the pessimist. They don't stink, but I'm not convinced yet.
Let's give me your projected lineup. I think, do you have the opening night lineup or the
Yeah,
lineup when everyone's healthy? What are you
so,
looking at here?
just to kind of get put in context here, we're recording this. They just finished the game in Belleville against the Senators. So based on that game now, here's how I have the projected opening night lineup going. Obviously, the big three, I have Bunting, Matthews, Marner. That doesn't change, will not change. They're going to the Blue Jay game together, so that's not changing. It's not really what I would do, but here's what I'm thinking Keefe's going to do, because what I would do is totally off the rails. But I think Kerfoot gets the shot at second line center. I think they liked him there at times when Tavares was out. So I think they're going to put Kerfoot in the middle between Nylander and Dennis Malgin. I think Malgin makes this team. I think him and Robertson are the same with me, because you can't expect those guys to thrive in a fourth line role, because they're not going to play the way you expect your third line and fourth line to play. So I think Malgin he just scored his third goal of the preseason. I think he gets the first shot with Kerfoot and Nylander because of his age and experience. The third line, I think it's Yarncroc in the middle with Robertson on the left and Pontus Holmberg on the right.
Wow. You think Pontus is making the opening night lineup?
I think he does make the opening night lineup only because of injuries. I think he's had a solid camp so far. And I can tell by the guys he's playing with that there's some, there could be a hint of some chemistry there.
And that they possibly believe in him, right?
Well, yeah.
They want to see what he's like with those guys.
There's enough defense on that lineup to help Robertson out in a third line role. I think you still want a little bit of offense from your third line.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, Yarncroc and Holmberg are Swedes. They played together in the game against Montreal. Nylander was on the other side. So that's why I'm kind of keeping those guys together. And I believe Holmberg could be sent down once Engvall gets healthy. So there's my reasoning. My checking line, you saw it tonight. It's probably a great checking line, but I'm going to go with Zach Aston Reese, David Kampf, and Nicholas Aubé-Kubel as your fourth line. I think that line's going to probably stay intact. Could be up a third line depending on when people get healthy, but I think that line stays, and that is a fourth line. That will score you no goals, but we'll do a lot of tight checking, may pitch in here and there.
They scored a goal tonight, Frankie.
Oh, but that is a NHL fourth line to me. Your extra is probably going to be Simmons. I don't think that's going to be ready in time because his shoulder.
Okay.
But that's my opening lineup for the forwards. The defense, based on what they're skating and how they're skating today, I have Riley and Muzzin together with Riley on the right side. Giordano and Brody, the Calgary connection, back together, and Sandin sliding in with Hall on the third pair, and Matt Murray's your opening night starter.
Cool.
The question then becomes, Joe, and this is where I'm going to throw it to you, what this lineup is going to look like when they're healthy, because there's going to be some upset guys not on this roster.
Yeah, you're right. Well, that's what I mean. They have a lot of depth third and fourth line guys, right, that can fill those spots. I guess it depends on how well Malgin does. I agree with you. I think he's in the opening night lineup, and I think he's looked good with Nylander so far in the preseason. They're definitely going to give him a shot. And how great would it be if he ends up, being a really good player and making everybody forget about the that Marchman trade, because that's the trade that everybody makes fun of Kyle Dubas for, is that trade right there, right?
Now here's the thing. Quickly on Malgin, I got to give this guy credit. When he came over, he had like 1 point in the games that he played. He was a bust. He was a bust, right? Goes over to Switzerland, plays absolutely out of his mind, becomes a more well-rounded player, goes to the Olympics, plays well there, and now is trying to come back and get a job. And he's actually done quite well in the preseason. So you got to give the guy credit. He earned the shot. He's earned at least that shot. And I think you called it too, Joe. I think he's got an out clause. If it's Leafs or bust.
Yeah.
So
I think so. I think he's not playing for the Marlies. So, and I think he is starting with the Leafs the way it is. Robertson has looked much better this preseason than he has at any other time that he's actually played for the Leafs. He just seems stronger on the puck. I always felt like he was always on his ass every time he played previously with the team. So
yeah,
it looks like he's built upon his strength. That shot is an NHL shot, right?
But you know what, Joe? They need it. They need that little boost of offense. They need that shot.
Yeah.
So you know what? I think he's played probably the most preseason games so far. They played 4. I think he's played in 3 of them so far. He's getting that chance. They're giving him a real hard look because if he goes down, that could be a real shot to his confidence. We could be talking Jeremy Bracco here. You know what I mean? We don't want to go that far.
No. All right, so Frankie, if everyone's healthy, who do you have on the lineup? Obviously, we know what the first line is. Let's skip that line right now. Save ourselves some time.
You know what? I think at some point, the first line stays as is. I think Robertson makes his way up to the second line at some point.
Okay.
So I'll bump Robertson up with Tavares and Nylander. Then your third line, which is going to be really good. I think Engvall plays in the middle between
Yarncroc,
Kerfoot, and Yarncroc.
Yep.
Which would be a really solid third line.
I agree.
And then your fourth line stays intact, and Malgin's your extra. I think your fourth line stays Kampf, Aston Reese, and Kubel, and Malgin is your guy that you rotate in. You know,
that's so Holmberg and Gaudette are like your extras, and Simmons as well.
Yeah. Now, with the cap, there's probably going to be a couple waivers in, and everybody claims Leafs on waivers. So I wouldn't be surprised if Malgin gets claimed. I wouldn't be surprised if Gaudette or Kubel gets claimed. I don't know, but that's pretty much where I see the team if everyone's healthy, and that's a solid team. But a lot of this depends on Robertson.
So then, what are you worried about then about that depth?
Dude, I can't say that they're a perennial contender. It worries me. Again, it's a lot of what ifs, man. It's a lot of what ifs.
And that's understandable, right? But every team that they're competing with in the division has lost significant players. You look at Tampa, no more Palat, who scored a ton of huge goals for them.
That's fair.
And they lost McDonough, who was in their top 4. They gave him away for nothing, right? So Tampa's, how could you say they're better? They're worse than last year. They're still going to be a great team, though.
We say the same thing about the Bruins every year. How can they be? And they're still there.
Oh yeah, they're going to be good. I'm saying, like, they lost Mikheyev because of the cap. So did other teams. When you're a good team, you're going to lose good players to the cap, especially when the cap is flat, like it's been for 3 years now. So I think they've done a decent job of filling in those holes. We'll see, though, man. Like, it looks decent to me on paper, and then a month into the season, we're like, okay, this team's got some major problems, but I don't see it that way. I guess I'm a glass half full type of guy. But let's move on, okay, just for a sec, and do some bold predictions. So you were supposed to come up with a couple bold predictions. I came up with a couple, and then we can debate them if you'd like. Okay. Why don't you give us the first one?
Okay, I'm gonna use the goaltending one. I'm gonna say that someone other than Ilya Samsonov or Matt Murray will start game 1 of the playoffs.
Oh, Jesus.
Who that guy is, I don't know, but that's my prediction.
Oh man, I don't like that one, Frankie. I don't like that one at all. That means that either they're hurt, the goalies, or they stink if we're getting another goalie.
I'm going to say hurt because none of these guys are healthy. But I'm going to say Matt Murray, unfortunately, the guy gets hurt every year. So it's possible that he gets hurt, that $4.5 million goes on LTIR. They go out and they pick up a guy who's in a tandem somewhere and can get them to the next level. So that's my prediction from that standpoint.
Oh boy. Okay.
By the way, Matt Murray has never played more than 50 games.
Oh boy. Okay. I hope that one doesn't come to fruition, but we shall see. Okay. I kind of touched upon this one already. It kind of slipped out, but Dennis Malgin will score 20 goals, look great, and make everyone forget about the Marchment trade. He'll make all the Dubasites scream out loud, hooray, and he'll make the Baghead Nation really, really upset.
I can see that. Especially if he's going to play with Nylander and Tavares. Like,
well, he's played with
if he
Nylander
stays there.
significantly in this preseason, so obviously they want to check on the chemistry between those two, right? And they've looked decent. So,
Okay.
all right,
Nick Robertson.
Oh boy.
Nick Robertson will not be a Maple Leaf come post trade deadline day.
Wow, I like that one.
And I'll tell you why in a minute.
I could totally see it happen because one of my bold predictions was that the Leafs add a significant forward at the deadline. I don't know how they're going to do it.
You see how I led you into that?
I didn't want to even touch upon the cap because I hate talking about that stupid cap, but I don't know how they do it, but I could see them landing a significant forward a la Patrick Kane. That would be incredible. But in order to acquire a player like of that ilk, you're going to have to give away someone. And who are teams going to want? A 21-year-old who's got a lot of skill, a lot of talent, a lot of potential. And Nick Robertson could definitely show that this upcoming season. Because I feel like his value a couple years ago when he was still in junior, lighting it up in junior, was through the roof.
That's exactly where I was going to go with that.
And now his value's dropped significantly because he hasn't made the NHL, but we forget that he's only 21 years old still.
And he's been hurt.
Yeah,
some
exactly.
major injuries.
Yeah.
Right. So I think you're exactly right. So the best thing that can happen to this team, he gets a legitimate shot, plays well. Not incredible, plays well. And if they have to make a deal, he's one piece that you add as part of that roster / prospect in that deal because you got Matthew Nice coming.
I like that bold prediction, man. That's
maybe
you're better at than me than these bold predictions. Mine are like, yeah, Nylander's gonna score 40 goals. Like, okay, not that bold. He's awesome. All right, yeah. I got one for you.
Okay.
And this is not going to be like a shock or anything, but it is bold because it hasn't happened in 18 friggin' years. Okay. They've lost in the first round for 6 years in a row. Lucky number 7 this year, baby. They will win a round. The Maple Leafs are going to the second round for the first time since 2004. How's that for bold?
That's bold because I'm not as afraid of some of these teams as I was before. I'm not as afraid of Tampa as I was in the past because they've lost some pieces. I'm definitely not afraid of Boston because they're not, it's there. Like it's actually not too bad. Yeah, I want to see it happen, but that's pretty bold, man.
It is pretty bold. I know.
How about this one? How about the last one for me?
Okay, let's hear it.
The Leafs finally win a round, but Kyle Dubas does not return as GM next year.
Wow, you are good at these. I don't see that at all. I possibly even think he may have an extension, but it's like they don't want to announce it because it's like a hush hush wink wink. Like let's see how the boys respond to you being on a.
We can't get into Dubas because we'll
that's
never.
That's a whole other episode, yeah.
But I'm just gonna leave you with this. I think Dubas overplayed his hand on the goaltending situation, thinking that he had a extension in place because there's no way in hell he goes into the season with that many question marks in net, knowing he has no contract extension. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he would go in with a proven goalie to save his ass. He's not looking at this say, "Oh shit." So I think
I'm banking my job basically on 2 unknowns. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the plan, it's like if you read articles and things like that, I think it's well known now. Their plan A was to try to get Marc-Andre Fleury, but then he signs right before free agency hits. And then plan B was Ville Husso, who signs with Detroit or gets traded to Detroit and then signs.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, we're into plan C. And, he knew Murray from the past. We'll talk about this more on another episode. But, yeah, I think you've got a point there. You've got a point. But I do think there might be a way like that he already has the extension or it's like a hush hush wink wink. Let's see how the boys respond, because I know that all the players really like Kyle. So it's like if they know maybe that they're playing for his job, or they think that they're playing for his job, maybe it gives them a little extra motivation. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll talk about this in the next episode.
Yeah,
do this episode.
Don't get into it.
Because it's you can talk an hour just about his tenure, I feel like.
Yeah.
All right, Frankie. I think that's episode 1 in the books.
Love it.
Not bad. Other than my little mishap at the beginning when I totally went huge brain fart. But hey, even first liners make mistakes on their first couple shifts.
Like a good D partner, I had you covered, man. The veteran handles the rookie, and we're okay.
That's it.
We're off and running.
On my back. All right, everybody. So
hey,
thank you.
Just a quick before we go.
Absolutely.
I know I put this on Twitter and Instagram, but just to let everybody know, friend of the show, Auston Matthews. I want to thank you for making my son's first game an incredible experience, man. Quick story. I had to tell my son that we went to the Montreal Canadiens and Leaf preseason game this week. I didn't explain to him that Auston Matthews wasn't playing that night. He didn't understand that. He thought maybe he was hurt. I said, buddy, it's just the chance you take, right? I was fortunate enough to get him down to the dressing room and see the guys as they came out. And my son was getting impatient and waiting. Unfortunately, we have to wait there. And out of the media and or the main chamber there, where the executives come out, Larry Tannenbaum came out, said hi, whatever. So that was pretty neat. And then sure enough, I looked to my left, and here comes Auston Matthews in his black shirt, black suit, white shirt, and Air Jordans, which was a sick combination. And I said, buddy, who's that guy? And my son, oh my daddy, it's Auston Matthews. He was on his way into the dressing room. He was in a hurry. He stopped, gave my son a fist bump, and asked him what his name was. And off he went. And that made his experience was speechless. And I think something he'll remember forever. And thanks, man. That's all I can say. Thank you. You didn't have to. You really didn't have to.
That's amazing, because it shows that he understood, he understands what the gift that he's been given, and he doesn't take it for granted. The power, the effect that he has on people to make a little kid's day like that. Even just a simple fist bump. Hey, what's your name? Give him a little bit of attention. It just, you make someone's entire day and a memory that they have for the rest of their life. So really cool story. But Frankie, you know what this means, man. You got to take your kid to a regular season game where Auston is playing now.
Buddy, you know what? I don't think I can top
Pony
that.
up, big boy. Let's go.
That's where no comes into play.
Call no. Okay.
Absolutely.
And make it happen. That's it. Awesome. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode. We love bringing it to you. Once again, if you're interested in our content, you could also check out Not Another Puckin Sports Pod. That's our first baby. Check that one out. A lot of NFL coverage and NHL coverage as a whole. Also we'll probably touch upon the Blue Jays as they head into the playoffs.
Yep.
And NBA stuff as well. So we appreciate it. You can follow us on Instagram, Puckin Pod, YouTube. Right,
yeah, it's our channel, Puckin Sports Network on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, Puckin Sports Network, absolutely. And that's it, man. Let's ride into the night. And I think we're only a couple weeks away. It's a great time of the year.
Oof.
Looking forward to the start of the season, even without JT. Hope he's okay.
Soon, man.
That's it. Thanks, everyone. Take care.